As you guys out there know who've been playing Shadow of War, the main objective of this game is to slap down some orcs and to take down the almighty Sauron. Now, while that is extremely fun, do not get me wrong, there is another objective at hand. When you actually reach Act 2 of the game, you will get granted your own little army. You will have to take down your first fortress, which actually, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but you will just be granted it. I'm not going to tell you who's where and what's what. You'll find that out for yourself. But you do get your own fortress, which is what we are looking at right now. I'm just going to give you 5 of my biggest tips that I've learned throughout going through this game. As you can see, I've got a lot of the followers here that are mine. There's only about 4 or 5 enemies, orcs, that actually aren't mine in this whole area, so it's not bad at all. Number 1, consume as many orcs as possible. Now, this is the higher level orcs I'm talking about, not the little puny level 10s that you find around the world. There are a lot of those, but there are also a lot of powerful orcs with powerful skills. And that is the main thing you want to look out for, their skills and their level. You do not want an orc with vulnerability of stealth, execution, arrows, you know, and they do come about, trust me, I've seen a lot of them, but that is definitely not what you want as a follower. You want to build your army as you want it, basically. It's your army. You put who you want, where you want, when you want, and that is the beauty of it. But another way to also get followers is to go into the market, which we are here now. And as you can see, the silver war chest grants you 2 orc followers and at least 1 epic and 1 consumable, either training orders or a 2-hour spoils of war boost. Now, you can pay money for these, which is it's kind of annoying because you can get 4 orc followers or legendary and 1 legendary training order, but it's 600 coins and you're going to have to pay for those separately. So if you're willing to spend some money on the game, then that is a way to go, but I wouldn't recommend that, to be honest. I'd recommend sticking to the silver war chest, and that's probably the best way to get them. And as you can see up here, I've got 7 followers already, and I've got 4 epics there, which I can actually just drop into the actual world at any time of my choosing, basically. So, as I was saying about the skills, look, here we go. So, damage by range attacks, executions, and stealth attacks. He is a pretty strong one to have, look. He's not got very many vulnerabilities, which is what you want to look for. He's also got epic bombs, which is multiple bombs rapidly. He's got a gang of hunters who follow him, and he drops mines as well. He's also got an advanced class, which is a destroyer, which is why he's an epic card. He's also got Final Blast, triggers an explosion upon his death that stuns nearby enemies, and class bonus Olog Strength, counter attacks with powerful stunning blows. He's also got Last Stand as well, becomes enraged when facing the Bright Lord alone, but he won't be doing that because he's on my team, and he is fireproof as well. Now, like I said, you don't want to be like this guy down here. Look, he's a legendary, but he's only level 15. He's one that I actually got from there. Mortally flammable. Look, he's very weak coming against fire. He can be killed instantly, basically. If he gets set on fire, he dies. Simple as that. And that is exactly why he is not up here as my Warchief. And that is why he's down there. Now, after you've consumed as many orcs as possible, and you've got your army down here at the bottom, we can move into the next phase, which is building your army. My tip number 2. So, as you get your overlord at the top up here, you can choose whoever you want, basically. I could change him if I wanted to. If I wanted to command him and put him up there and swap it, I could. But I'm not going to because he is a pretty good overlord up there. Now, what you will have to do is choose a couple of war chiefs, which are these guys sitting on top of the fortress. So I've got 3 at the moment because I've leveled up, but you will only have the choice of 2 at the beginning. Now, what you want to bear in mind is when someone attacks your fortress online, they will come across these 2 guys first, and that is what you want to bear in mind. They've got to be strong. They've got to have good skill set, basically. This guy with the shield, they're always good to have because they are quite tricky. And actually, the Warmonger Destroyers can actually learn your attack. So if you keep vaulting over him, he will learn that, and he will learn Vault Breaker during the fight, which is quite cool. And I've faced quite a few of them, and they are very, very tough to fight against. So that is one of my other tips as well. make sure your war chiefs have got a good skill set and they are strongly built up as well. So these are just normal ones. That's an epic one over there as well. So that is one of my main things. Tip number 3, make sure your war chiefs have a few bodyguards. Now this is very important, not for just the online assaults, but just in general really. If they ever get called out by an enemy opponent, they will always have backup. So this guy here, Nash Blacktooth, is basically, well, he is a bodyguard to my war chief. And so if we hover over here, look, as you can see, I've got 3 bodyguards coming for him. I've only got 2 for him, and I've got 2 for him as well. Now, this is definitely a big tip because, again, when you actually face them online, these bodyguards will actually come into play because they are defenders of the Warchief. And if the Warchief gets under attack, they will come into play. Also the same as the Overlord. Basically, the Warchiefs are there to protect the Overlord. So once the Warchiefs are down, the Overlord is vulnerable. But until the Warchiefs are dead, the Overlord cannot be touched. Tip number 4 is defend your fortress at all costs. Now, you've built your great fortress over here. You've got your army. And, you know, it's looking pretty good. And you're like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm pretty happy. But you've got to defend that fortress. And the way we do that is we move into the siege upgrades by pressing R1. Now, this is very interesting because, as you can see, the left here is the assault force. But on the right is our defense. Now, this is what we're going to be focusing on this tip. So, basically, the Overlord has all control over the walls of the palace, basically. The palace. The stronghold, as you call it. It's not a bloody fairy tale over here. But nevertheless, he gets metal walls, reinforced stone walls, or stone walls as a basic. So you can basically choose whichever one you want. There isn't a tip as to which is best. Obviously, metal walls is going to be the best one, but it's 7,500. If you can fork out that much, great, and do it. But I haven't got that much at the minute. I've got 11,000, but I want to keep that for later on in the game. So the first Warchief basically is in for the outer attack. So the first defense that they come to. Now, I've gone for fire spouts just because it can cause major damage when they're attacking. I've been up against the fortress with this, and it's bloody dangerous, man, because it takes out a lot of your followers. And it is very dangerous indeed. So, the same with poison, I imagine, as well. Poisoning all of those orcs coming up to try and take down the wall. Because they will knock down the wall or they will climb up the sides as well. So, bear that in mind. Now, as we move on to the second Warchief, he is in charge of the actual army that is defending. It's an extra army. You obviously get your standard orcs coming in, but I've got a hunter host. The defending army is bolstered with hunters who hurl jagged spears that are especially deadly to beasts. So if they bring in some beasts into the fight, we are ready. If they bring in a load of Caragors or Graugs, hopefully the hunter host can deal some good damage. We've also got a defender host, which is shield bearing heavy infantry, and we've also got a savage host, which is obviously a dual-wielding blade, a mother trucker, and they are bloody tough, I tell you. They will take you down. They are very tough indeed. And as we move on to the third Warchief down here, he is in control of the siege beasts. So these are massive beasts with massive siege bow and arrows kind of things on their back. And they will fire, well, fire basically. He can do a fiery siege beast, which is what I've got because it causes massive pain. So I've got a fire on my outer rim, and I've also got a fiery siege beast. So how much fire is coming down is incredible. It's going to burn them alive. But you can also get the poisonous siege beast and the cursed ones as well. Now, tip number 5 is the assault force of your army. What is the point of having an army if you haven't got an assault force? Basically, the whole point of building an army is to take down a fortress and then hold it. But you can then take down other fortresses once you've got this one in online conquest, basically. So you can go and take down other players' fortresses, and that is where this comes in. It gets you spoils of war, it can get you coins, and it will get you chests. That is a certainty. So it is definitely worthwhile doing, and that is probably one of my biggest tips, to be honest. Build a good assault force. So if you ever just want to go in and take another player's fortress, you can do it at will. And with my setup here, it's pretty easy to take one down, unless I come across a heavily guarded, heavily guarded fortress with like 5 or 6 of these full. You're going to be pretty good. So if we move on to the first assault leader, he deals with a frontal assault, and I've got mounted cavalry on this one. I've only got this selected at the minute because I was actually facing a Warchief who was afraid of cavalgors, and he actually fled straight away, which was quite good. But I would usually go with the Oligarch, basically because the attacking army is strengthened with a group of Oligarch who can destroy fortress walls, and as you can see there, they're just bashing them down. Now, unless they've got fire defenses on the side, they will be able to break down and get in there pretty good. But if there's fire breathing out of them walls, it's going to be very difficult, and they're going to be wiped out. So you've got to assess your options first. As we move on to number 2, he deals with, again, the enemy that are coming in, so we can get savage hosts, defender hosts, or hunter host. I don't know why. I really like the jagged spears because they cause me a lot of damage when I play against them, and that's probably one of the main reasons I choose them, to be honest. Now, as we move on to Assault Leader 3, he deals with the siege beast again, but this time the attacking one. So he is going to be sat right at the back and firing inside the fortress. So I've chose the poisonous siege beast because it's going to send him inside and poison all of the enemies, hopefully, before we get in there, just to take him down a little bit. You can also go with the cursed ones or the fiery siege beast, of course. And as we move on to the final assault leader, this is one I've actually not long unlocked, but I've gone for the Wargrave. The attacking army is supported by a Wargrave, a massive beast capable of terrible destruction. How can you get any better than that? Or you could go for a Drake, but the Drake's fire does not discriminate, so it could wipe out your army as well. It could actually hurt you. So it's one of those, really. You know, I don't really want that, but it's completely up to you. Or you could go for Shelob's Brood. Clusters of deadly acronids swarm the fortress, poisoning and panicking the defenders. So that is it, guys. That is my 5 tips on how to build your army and how to defend your fortress and attack other fortresses that come in your wake. In no time, you will be taking over Mordor and taking down Sauron with your unstoppable armies. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you very soon.